Rodney, I'm sure everybody out there listening is thinking the same thing I am. Thank you for your service in Semper Fi.
Welcome to Six Figure Trucker, the podcast where we share advice on how to be successful in trucking and have fun while doing so. We'll share stories, news, and advice on how to earn six figures in trucking, and we'll speak to guys and gals that are already doing so. Let's get to the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. And, of course, you guys and gals that listen to this every week, you know it's a space, it's a venue, it's an area where we elevate and celebrate the drivers that make this company, this country go round and round. Without them, we would not have the life and the lifestyles that we do have, and we're very appreciative of what they bring to the table. And we have a very special guest who is joining us in his second week here on the program. Last week we heard from Rodney Clay. He had a great story about life on the road, his trips, his travels, his life with his wife, how she is so involved in what he does. They work hand in hand, got a great partnership business-wise and as husband and wife. Rodney joins us now. Rodney, we know that you were joining us from just outside of South Dakota on your way to Minnesota last week, and we are very happy that you're with us now. And you'd made mention 3-4 times in last week's episode about your time in the military. Tell us how that got started, your life in the military.
Oh, it started when I was a sophomore in high school down in Tennessee, and buddies of mine were, one of them, his dad is a recruiter for the Tennessee National Guard, and he mentioned that he had a buddy program, and if I wanted to go, I'm like, really, the Army National Guard? I'm like, get out of here, So between my sophomore year and my junior year, I went to boot camp. I went to Fort Jackson in South Carolina, and I did a full boot camp for grown men, and that was an experience. And then I went back and finished did my junior year, and then between my junior and my sophomore year, I went to camp, Fort Benning, Georgia, and I did my infantry training, and that was another experience with grown men. And they knew I was still, going to be a high school senior. So between those years, I was like a full part-time soldier for the Army National Guard in Tennessee, infantryman, and driving APC tanks. And, then as soon as I graduated, I went straight into the Marine Corps.
Now, let me get this straight. You're in your high school years, and you were driving an armored personnel carrier. Is that right?
Absolutely.
What was that like?
That was another thing. It was different. We had some training at Camp Campbell. It was in Kentucky, and one of the guys got sick, so they threw me in this big box with all these things, and it's an armored personnel carrier that carries about anywhere from 15 to 20 guys, and I loved it. It was a new challenge and a new experience for me on just being a junior in high school, driving an armored personnel carrier that a grown man usually gets, and I'm a kid, So it was very exciting for me to get into something like that.
What year are we in when you're in high school there? What year are we looking at?
It was I started in 1980. 1980 is when I first went into the Army National Guard. I graduated high school in 1982.
Now, driving that APC, was that, I guess, what you would classify as your first real, quote-unquote, driving experience as it relates to you now as a Driveaway driver?
No, I did that only every now and then. It was mostly like on the summer, in some of the summer months, and every now and then when we did a little training. But my first experience was I was in the Marine Corps, and all of a sudden I heard "Hey, Clay!" I'm like, "Oh, what is that?" And I turn around, and here's a major. He said, "Can you drive this Jeep right here?" He called me son. I'm like, I just said, "Yes, sir," because he scared the mess out of me. So he said, "I need you to take me to a meeting." So I took him to a meeting, stripping gear and everything in this Jeep. He's like, "I need you to wait right here, Clay. I got a meeting." 3 hours later, this guy comes out. "Hey, Clay, did you see me coming?" I'm like, "No, sir." He said, "Why aren't you saluting me, Clay?" He said, "Let's go and you take me back." He said, "Clay, you want to be my driver?" "I appreciate that you want to be my driver." I didn't get a chance answer this guy. And, all of a sudden I'm his driver from being a radio personnel guy in the warehouse and carrying radios on my back. Now I'm a driver of a Jeep. And he said, you need to learn how to drive this thing because of all the shanking and banking you're doing with me. He said, it doesn't look good on me, Clay. I'm like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So from that point, he's actually switched my MOS into the motor pool from being a radio guy. So that kind of was my first experience of being thrown into actually driving for a living.
When a major asks you a question, it's not really a question.
It's not a question. It's you're going to do what I tell you to, even though it sounds like a question.
It's a
he doesn't
statement.
want an answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Now, so you started in the Army National Guard, but you also served in the Marines. Tell us how those paths intersected.
That's one of our meetings in the National Guard. National Guard, we're sitting back, everybody's talking. All of a sudden I hear this. I'm like, what is this? What is going on here? What's wrong with this guy right here? Let alone somebody said, yeah, he's an ex-Marine, and he does that whenever he feels the urge to let something out of his body. I'm like, dude, I want to do what he's doing. He had the shiniest shoes, the creases in his clothes, the best haircut, the walk like a statue. And I'm like, within a few months, a couple of days after high school graduation, I was on my way to boot camp over in Parris Island, South Carolina. Oh yeah,
that's a hot place.
Yeah. It's hot with a lot of fleas and a lot of spit and a lot of demands and a lot of pressure. Oh yeah.
Now, how long were you in the Marines? How long in the Army?
Army National Guard. It was 2 years and a couple months. It took the Marines a little bit to have the Army release me, so that I could go 24/7 active duty. So 2.5 years in the Tennessee National Guard. And then I went to a second boot camp, so who does 2 boot camps,
Rodney Clay.
Because the Marines said, that's not tough enough, son. That's Boy Scouts compared to what we're getting ready to put you through. Really? Really? So I was in, I did I signed up for 4 years. And I got out, and I was in Oceanside, California, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I walked town for a little while. I kept my bags underneath the laundromat where it was warm, and I just had a decision to make. Do I want to go home or do I want to stay, or what am I going to do with my life? And within a matter of 2-3 days, I was taking a little green bus back on base at Camp Pendleton, and I was in for another 30 years. Yeah.
Rodney, I'm sure everybody out there listening is thinking the same thing I am. Thank you for your service in Semper Fi.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a way of life. It's a way of life that you get used to, and it's all I knew. Jumping from high school, I knew nothing else. It's basically without the military. I'm like, what am I going to do? So I my last 4 years, I decided to ease my way out. So my last 4 years, I did the reserves, so it was like part military and ease my way into the civilian life. So that was the best decision that I could say for myself, so that I could take the blunt force. I didn't want to take the blunt force of the civilian war hit me in the face and not knowing what to do with it.
Gotcha. 30 years, 3 decades in the Marines. I'm sure you saw a lot of stuff.
Yes, sir. The things that goes to the military, it's kind of like an everyday life. It's like a job, and the people and the brotherhood and the people will have your back. So it's kind of like, this is it. This is what I'm made for. Yeah.
Now, you did some tours.
Yes, sir. I did. I did 2 years in Iraq. I did. I think it was 2 years in Afghanistan. All but one was ordered. I was ordered to go to these places. The last one was volunteer. Reason was volunteer because I had a lot of friends. My friends were there. Some of my friends were still there. Some of my friends, never made it out, breathing out of there. So it was like for me within myself to go back and live a life that I was used to, You got people who are used to what we do in the military to people who are used to what they do here in the civilian world. So it's really like no big deal. This is what we do.
What was your role when you were in Iraq and Afghanistan?
Well, Iraq, it was more of armored personnel. I drove the M1 Abrams. That was my main job in Iraq, both tours. And, there were times where things would break down and you're sitting in the hot sun and you're waiting on the repair guy to come and fix. A track might roll off your equipment and you got to find a way to put it back on, or you're hoping that the engineers are finding everything so there's no harm done to you or your friends, as they're in front of you. So that was my main role in Iraq, and my main role. And after, I got kind of a little bit bored with driving and bouncing around and my little peanut head poking around in a little hole, and the hot sweatiness inside. It's already 110 to 130 degrees in some of these areas. So when it's inside this piece of equipment, it's double of what's outside with nothing blowing on you but a fan that's blowing hot air into your face. It's like, oh my goodness. So I switched up careers inside the military and went amphibious assault unit, which dealt with, First Marines out of Camp Pendleton, dealt with helicopters, and the Navy played a big role in that part with riding with the Navy on, we call them 6-packs. You go out for 6 months with the Navy, you do training, and you're making yourself ready for whatever the military needs you to do.
You're listening to Rodney Clay here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Rodney's telling a lot of us about his time, 30-plus years in the military, first the Army, National Guard, then the Marines. Now, Rodney, I'd have to ask you this question since we're talking about trucking also. How did your career in the military impact or influence your career as a driver?
Because of the service I was giving, guys, outside of driving the M1 Abrams, if we're not out in the field, you do have regular bases in some of these places. You need water, you need food, you need gasoline, you need supplies, so if I'm not driving my Abram, I'm driving a tanker full of water, or I'm driving a tanker full of diesel fuel, or I'm driving a flatbed with food on it for people out in the field, or I'm driving, a garbage truck, picking up the garbage, or I'm driving a truck where you're literally cleaning out, the restrooms. That's a dirty job, but somebody has to do it. Though, it was a service that I was just wanting to drive, and, and it was also a way to me as I'm riding down these roads that the air would hit me because I'm wide open and it was hot. I did it for my enjoyment also because it's like, oh man, it's so hot out here. So that's how I kind of got into driving in the civilian world.
Gotcha. Now, in your time in Iraq and Afghanistan, you've kind of laid a picture out for us, a very vibrant picture there. This is totally up to you. We totally respect if it's something you don't want to touch on, but I'm sure in those situations you saw some dicey things.
Yes, sir. There's a lot of it's a thing that there's days where you think about it and you really can mess yourself up inside yourself, thinking about it 24/7. And the first time I saw combat as a young kid, I was helped by another guy because I got scared and I hit the ground and I kind of like threw up and I laid myself in my own, excuse my expression, my own vomit because I was that scared. And I had another guy just grab me by the neck and he said, you can either stay here and smell like your vomit, or you can get up and you can help us on what we need to do. And, that gave me a lot of encouragement because he was a veteran. And here I am, a young kid. And it gives you some heart, it gives you the heart. Like, me being that big football star in high school was nothing compared to what I do now. Me being the kid who was in the drama class or the Spanish class, it's nothing compared to what I do now. So I had to prepare myself emotionally and mentally to see the things that I seen. And, it took a while. It took Yeah, it took some time.
I understand. That's we certainly, again, thank you very much for your service in the military for this country, and we certainly thank you for the driver that you are now. And I guess all that experience in the military probably would help you a lot in staying the course as a driver in Driveaway.
Absolutely. It gives you the patience that's to go through the things that's out here, and patience is a big thing that you need in Driveaway. Driveaway and being a truck driver is it's just like the weather. One day it's nice, bright, and sunny, and the next day you got a hurricane facing, and you just have to prepare yourself on knowing what to do and when to do it. And it's not all that bad. It really isn't. You just work your way through it.
I would imagine it gives you not only patience but also perspective.
Absolutely. And I'm not the best, and I probably won't be the best, but when you got a good team around you, including when I was in the military and being out here with Norton, things are done a lot smoother. If you think you're by yourself, you're not. Norton will help you just as my friends helped me in the military. You'll make your way through. It's all a team effort.
Those are some great words spoken by Rodney Clay here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Rodney is a man that's been driving for a long time, served in the military for a long time, 3+ decades. Rodney, thank you so much for everything you've done. We're honored to have you on board as one of our premier drivers here at Norton Transport, and we thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us, Rodney. Have a good evening, and be safe out there.
Thank you very much, son. I appreciate it.
Six Figure Trucker is brought to you by Norton Transport. Norton Transport is a drive-away trucking company that customers can rely on. It offers excellent independent contract driving opportunities to professional, courteous, and qualified drivers that can provide the kind of service we deliver. If you're interested in learning more about Norton or just want to subscribe to the show, check out 6-figuretrucker.com. That's 6-figuretrucker.com.